Hi, everybody. This is Dan Cerrucci again, and this is The Advocates. And this is the program where we talk to people who are advocates for all kinds of things from all walks of life. And as I always say, we're all an advocate for something, whether we know it or not. Today, my guest is Sceia Klein. Ann, how are you?
I'm fine, Dan. Thank you for having me today.
It's great to have you here. Ann, you have written a remarkable book. We have it right here. My copy of it, Ann, is all marked up with these Post-it notes because I read it so fast. I got to tell you, this is one of the fastest and most compelling and interesting reads I've come across in a while. It's called On the Cusp, The Women of Penn, from the University of Pennsylvania, The Women of Penn, 1964, and the stories of 19 University of Pennsylvania women who were in the vanguard of changing women's roles in business, the professions, academia, and society at large. Did you, and you and these 18 other women, did you think of yourself as trailblazers?
We had no idea. We just had a lot of confidence, and that confidence just propelled us to do things we probably never thought we even dreamed of.
This was a generation of women. Where does the term on the cusp come from?
The term came from several women that we interviewed, and I probably should go back and tell you a little bit about the interviews. We interviewed women in person who were in the Philadelphia market, but I interviewed women all over the country. And so we taped their interviews, and 3 or 4 of them said, we were on the cusp of something great, and we had no idea what it was. But looking back, we realized that we were about to change life forever for women in certain industries. And so we did.
But this was before the onset, most of the onset of the modern women's movement as we know it.
Oh, yes, it was. We had no networking classes in college, no women who came to talk to us, no conversations about entrepreneurship, nothing. It was way before the women's movement. We graduated in 1964, and the women's movement really didn't get started until the 1970s. So we were really early pioneers in the game.
Now, there was a women's college at Penn at that time. Was it a separate college, or how did it work?
Yes, there was. Penn did not become fully integrated until 1976, but there was a college.
You mean it fully integrated men and women?
Men and women,
okay.
Yeah. There was a college for women, and there was the college, and then there was the Wharton School, and there were other schools at Penn. We had, we were told that my class at Wharton, of the 12 women who entered in 1960, was the largest class we ever had. I read somewhere that in the 1950s, so 1954, women were just admitted to the Wharton School, so you couldn't get a degree in economics from the Wharton School until 1958 or 59. In the early 1950s, when women were admitted to the College for Women, only 57% of them actually received degrees. So we were really early in the game. And I think we knew it, but I don't think we really realized where we were.
You had to dress a certain way for classes?
Oh yes, absolutely. We were not allowed to wear any kind of pants or shorts. We had to wear dresses, skirts. We wore bobby socks and Ouija loafers and that sort of thing. But when we went to, and we had to dress for the dining room, we could not go outside of the dorm with any kind of slacks or shorts. So everything in the dorm had to be very appropriate and proper. And when we went to class, it was appropriate and proper.
So, I mean, you were in a separate dorm and all, there weren't co-ed dorms at that time or anything like that?
No. Our freshman year, we were scattered all over the campus. And then in, I guess that was the fall of September of 1960. In January of 1961, they built Hill Hall. Well, it was called the New Residence Hall. It didn't even have a name. And all the women who were scattered all over the campus came and stayed in that one building. But, oh, please, I can remember a time, you talk about no men being allowed. Men were allowed on the first floor in the lounge to watch television. And one time, I will never forget, it was probably my freshman or sophomore year, my sorority sister and her boyfriend had broken up, and he really wanted to see her. And she was in her room and she was crying, and so we had all these lookouts, and we snuck this guy into her room for like 2 minutes.
Oh my
to
God,
say,
what a story.
I'm sorry. And then we got him out again right away because everybody was, we'd all been up before the standards board.
These are unbelievable stories, folks, and hold that thought, and we'll be right back.
Seniors want peace of mind and a free prescription discount card? Keep listening. Are you age 85 or younger? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from Final Expense Direct Insurance Services. The average funeral now costs over $7,000, and the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. Our senior plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam, and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Get your free information about our senior plans. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone. Plus, call right now and you'll receive a free prescription discount card.
Call 855-223-7661. That's 855-223-7661. 855-223-7661.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call Low Cost Airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
This is Dan Cerrucci. We're back again, and this is The Advocates, and we're chatting with Sceia Klein, who, by the way, is the founder of the AKCG group. It started as N. Klein Communications and Public Relations. It's now AKCG here in Mount Laurel. Ann has written this wonderful book along with Vilma Barr called On the Cusp, The Women of Penn 64, a University of Pennsylvania 1964 trailblazing group of women lawyers. Oh my God, I worked for lawyers so long I thought it was lawyers.
Lawyers, doctors,
Group
attorneys.
Of women from all walks of life, professionals. We've got some pictures in that we're going to put up having to do with the book and some of the women that are written about. Now, who are we looking at here?
You're looking at Judy Berkowitz, who started her career, believe it or not, as a secretary with IBM, and then she took over her mother's business, and she worked out of her home with another woman, and they only sold unique things to women's department stores. Judy then became an advocate for women at Penn. She was the leader of the women's group at Penn, the Women's Board of Trustees, and then Judy became a trustee at Penn. So she is one spectacular lady.
It's amazing that, and that a lot of the women from this class have stayed in touch and nurtured one another over the years.
We have stayed in touch.
Amazing.
And the reunions have been fantastic in keeping us together.
Let's look at another picture.
Okay. This is Betty Blunt. Betty is a little older than we are. She is an African-American woman. She tried to get into nursing school in Philadelphia, she wound up with, because of the 5-year delay, she went to school in New York City. She is a psychiatric nurse, but she spent most of her career as an academic dean of various schools, and she also had a private practice. She tells the most incredible story of when she first started nursing. There was a patient that she was taking care of, and she said everybody kept coming in and looking at her. And a housekeeper finally said, everybody wanted to know what a black person looked like.
Oh,
and she
my
said,
goodness.
oh, it was terrible. And when she checked out in red across her name, it said, one night only, no white nurse available. So Betty's story is simply incredible.
Yeah, I read this story, and part of it where she said, well, she was an outstanding student from the very beginning. She was obviously very bright, and she was in high school, and she was like the top student, and they told her, you're going to have to write a speech for graduation, which she did, and then they told her, but a white girl is going to read the speech. And then her mother came in, and she talked to some people, and Betty was able to read the speech in the end. What a story.
Betty
What a
wrote
story.
her own speech then,
Yes.
and it was called The Common Man Emerges, and she delivered it. But she also was an expert classical pianist, and even though she accompanied all the graduation ceremony with her piano playing, they would not give her credit in the program. And she just couldn't believe it. I mean, life was tough for women in the 60s, but I tell you, being an African-American woman was really tough for Betty. Her story is so inspirational. I could have written 25 pages just on Betty alone.
Unbelievable.
With the story
Let's
she
look
told me.
at another picture here.
This is Eileen Leff. Eileen is just an amazing woman. She tried very hard to please her parents, so her parents didn't want her to go to school. This is so typical of women. You had to go within 100 miles of where you lived. So Eileen chose Penn over Barnard because there were no places for women to live in Barnard. So Eileen did teach a little bit off and on, but Eileen became one of the first women at McKinsey & Company, the management consulting firm. And thanks to John Lindsay, who had absolutely no problem with women on his team.
The former mayor of New York.
Former mayor of New York, yeah. Eileen was able to move up the line, and then she had some really good mentors and advocates for her. So she went on to Revlon and then Estee Lauder. And now Eileen, you know, the most amazing thing about my classmates is that they're all still working. So Eileen is working for some major organizations like Carnegie Music Hall and some other organizations, but she also works for Ashoka, which is a social service agency of women who are doing their own thing, so she's consulting to them. Eileen is such a great coach. She gave me some coaching yesterday, which was fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, before we go to the next picture, Ian, tell us how people can get this book.
Oh, the book is available on Amazon.com. You just go on and you Google On the Cusp Women of Penn 64, and it will show up. And if you just Google Women of Penn 64, I think you'll find it there too, but Amazon.com.
Let's look at the next one.
Oh, this is Neen Hunt. Neen is an amazing lady.
I know she went into the Peace Corps when she was 72 years old.
She did, and she went into some small remote village in Micronesia and helped teach principals and teachers how to teach. Neen is amazing. She started out as a journalist. When she was really young, she wrote a lot of plays. She said were really, when she looks back, she said they're probably all on the theme of Romeo and Juliet. But she moved along, and she always became a head of school, and then she got on scientific boards, and she became an incredible fundraiser. And the woman has just achieved
In one
beyond
story, she told about taking a job as a head of school in New York City, I think it was on the Upper West Side, when she was 8 months pregnant.
She did. She did. Well, you know, things had started to change because she was older when she took the job in New York, and early on, you couldn't be pregnant.
Okay.
The women
Yeah.
were asked to leave, and you couldn't show.
Well, but she did note it was a progressive school.
It was a very progressive school. Yes,
Maybe
yes.
we'll look at another picture here.
Oh, this is Ida Hogler, and Ida went to school at Penn, and then she went on to Columbia for her master's, and Ida became a nephrologist, and so she is one of the amazing women in our class who found that it was very difficult being a woman in medicine in the 60s and into the 70s, but she made it. But she moved to Atlanta,
Okay.
which was very interesting. She did not get into school here. She did go to Hahnemann, and Hahnemann, God bless them, they took 2 women from our class, or 2 women from our class, and 1 man went into Penn, and that was it.
That was it. Well, we're going to be right back. We're going to take a break now. We'll continue with these stories from On the Cusp, the women of Penn 64.
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales.
Build attendance for an event.
Help people find their way. Fast Signs design new directional signage.
And got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
I'm Casey Price, host of a brand new show on RVN TV called Justice for All. Tune in every Tuesday at 1 p.m. as some of South Jersey's amazing attorneys share their stories and important legal information that could affect you and the people you love. Remember, that's in Justice for All, every Tuesday at 1 p.m., only on RVN TV.
Hi, this is Dan Cerrucci again, and this is The Advocates. We've been talking with Sceia Klein about this book, On the Cusp, the Women of Penn 64. Let me tell you something. This is a book, this is a great book to give as a gift. I've got it all marked up, as you can see. This is a great book to give as a gift to a young woman, okay? To a daughter or a niece or a granddaughter, perhaps someone graduating college or high school or whatever. But it's also a great book for men to read too. It's just so illuminating about the stories of these women who graduated from the University of Penn in 1964. And what advice would you give to young women today?
My advice to young women is follow your dreams and go for it. Don't be afraid to take a risk, because my classmates were very confident. They got a lot of confidence from their parents, and going to a good school gave them confidence, but they took a risk. So I think you have to go for your dream and don't worry about what's going to happen, because somehow things work out. But you really have to keep up with your skills and your ability. The problem with a lot of women is that they don't keep up with their field. And I found that all the time I was reading really heavy stuff and really information related to the business. And then now that I've written the book, I read absolute junk. I read novels and things.
But remain relevant. It reminds me of the word of the day I was going to give, which is pertinacity. Pertinacity, I don't know how many of you know what that means, but it's the quality of sticking with something no matter what, a persistent determination, a mix of courage, conviction, and a little stubbornness. Were you stubborn, Ann?
Oh, I think we all were quite stubborn. If we knew we were right, and and right in our own minds, we stuck to what we believed in. So I think you have to just have a lot of courage these days. And if men and women read this book, they will see that the world has really opened up. I do not let women whine and complain to me anymore. I say, just go for it.
Go for it.
Because you have opportunities now that we never had. Our career paths, every one of the women in this book, we went like this. We had no direct career path. And so we just kept going, and you plow ahead and you keep
This
going.
is the age of the Me Too movement. And I have to ask you, did you have any experiences along the way where you had to put a man in his place?
Well, the Me Too movement is sexual harassment, and we did not find sexual harassment. We found attitudinal harassment.
Okay.
And it was the attitude that we were breaking into a man's world, and we were not really welcomed in that world. We were kind of upsetting the apple cart, so to speak. But in terms of putting a man in his place, I can't remember too much of it because I went to school with a bunch of guys. I became very collaborative, and I always would accept constructive criticism and suggestions for improvement. So I think I learned that. But one thing that does come to mind that was so funny is I was sitting in a meeting one time, and I was talking to a group of men, and I said, look, I'll help you all I can, and just don't push me. Sometimes there are just things I can't do. And I remember my boss that time said, I wonder how far the old broad will go. And after the meeting, I went out to him and I said, you know, when you put me down, you're putting down your whole team. And that's not good. Never happened again. So I think we got very good at the comeback. And I know as we went on in years, women got extremely talented at the one-liner comeback and those sorts of things.
Great.
But the one thing I learned was, don't put me down because you put your whole team down.
That was a great answer, and you're still good with the comeback in Sceia Klein. It's been great chatting with you. And this is Dan Cerrucci. This is The Advocates. Don't forget the book, On the Cusp. And I want to end with a quote by a great woman who became known as the First Lady of the World, Eleanor Roosevelt. And here's what she said, and think about this as we close. When you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on tight. This is Dan Cerrucci. See you next time.